Hello, Assalamu alaikum everybody. Hope you're all safe, sound, and healthy. And a few things that have once again just, made me want to speak out because this is now it's literally recurring nowadays, a lot. And when I see my friends around me, or when I see people my age around me, or when I see people younger than me, or when I see even people older than me going through all this, and I think to me, all of it points out to that one source, and that is, again, our society, but more than that, again, our parents, our families, who put us through all this. Now, imagine that you go through all these questions where people actually ask such stupid questions about if it is a punishment from God if your marriage is delayed, and this is something that obviously even stuns the scholars and the muftis. But one would argue, why are they even getting stunned? Because I at least would argue that it is largely due to these petty scholars, so-called scholars, because now there's so many people who call themselves scholars, and I'm sorry, but I do not accept anybody and everybody as a scholar. To me, you have to be a proper mufti, you have to be a certified qualified mufti in order to be able to make sense and to get the right to talk about religion. But nowadays, unfortunately, especially in Pakistan, there are these new trends that are once again coming up of weird-ass people suddenly declaring themselves to be scholars in Islam and muftis, and they're engineers and doctors and this and that. Listen, we all, as I said, remember the whole point of Islam is that every single one of us, regardless of who we are, where we come from, we should have basic knowledge of our religion. And our religion is very basic as it is anyway. As in there is no need to embellish on it, and there's no need to minus anything from it. It's complete, but it's simple, it's practical, it's all about common sense. As long as you're using your common sense, believe me, you can never go wrong, right? But the problem with these newfangled scholars, self-claimed, self-alleged scholars who literally are just amongst us, but they think that they've acquired enough knowledge that they can call themselves scholars and then start, preaching about Islam. And that in itself is completely wrong, because again, in Islam, there is no concept. Please understand this. In Islam, there is no concept of a priest. In Islam, there is no concept of a monk. Again, let me remind you of that hadith where the Prophet, peace be upon him, said to his companions that I fear that one day my ummah, my nation, will be like the Christians and the Jews, where they will commit shirk and follow priests and monks blindly. In our cases, basically he was talking about the scholars, the muftis, the scholars, the Maulvis, And the companion was so surprised, and he's like, no, but they're not worshipping them or anything. They're asking them for guidance because they're religious scholars. The priests and the monks, they have that knowledge, and people don't have it. So they're asking them for guidance. And the Prophet said, peace be upon him, he said, tell me one thing. If God says that something is allowed, but the priest or the monk says it's not allowed, who are the people going to listen to? The priest and the monk, right? The companion said, yes. He said, okay, and if God says that thing is not allowed, but the priests and the monks say, oh, it is allowed. Again, they're going to listen to the priest and the monks? And he said, yes. He said, then tell me, how is that not shirk? They are ignoring what the divine law states, and they're listening to people telling them that this is the law. And remember, this is how corruption entered into Christianity and Judaism and other religions in the first place. This is how paganism began in the first place. Remember, paganism was not the oldest religion in the world. Please, again, monotheism was the oldest religion in the world. So you have now suddenly decided that no, polytheists were the oldest. No, they're not. They were the first deviation, the first complete deviation from monotheism, where it started with such embellishments, where they're like, oh, there is God, but there are helpers of God. Oh, there is God, but there are angels. These angels are helpers of God. Again, oh, there is a God, but he has a family to boot. Oh, there is a God, but there is a son of God. Oh, there is a God, but you know what? There are so many deities that are just sharing a bits of his divinity. Like, seriously, and then suddenly your dead ancestors, they are somebody that you're worshiping to. They were so close to God, they were like saints, so yeah, even though they're dead, their souls are now there with God, so we can ask their souls to make God, listen to us. This is shirk. This is again polytheism. So remind me again how listening to a scholar without doing your own research is not shirk. I'm just saying. Listen, there are a few muftis that I really really listen to, but that doesn't mean I agree with them 100%. No, I don't. I never agree with anybody 100%. Why? Because Islam has taught me to question. And again, that is the very, very ironic thing, which again I'm going to come back to now, is if Islam is a religion that came to question, Hazrat Ibrahim, he questioned their worshipping of the sun and worshipping of the moon and worshipping of the different gods and the stones and this and that, and he literally by logic tried to see, okay, what is the logic, what is the rationale here behind it, and by logic he proved them wrong. So Islam, God says, look around you, observe, learn, discover, invent, and in all of that you will see signs from me, So yeah, that is why in Islam knowledge is an obligation, whereas very funnily in Christianity, thanks to the priests corrupting the religion, knowledge was the forbidden fruit. It was that forbidden fruit that the devil gave to Eve. And so Eve is going to be punished. And so women are, an original sin and this and that. It's all BS, I'm sorry, but it is BS. Let's just call a spade, right? So again, coming down to this, Islam came here to challenge your narrow-mindedness, your restrictions, your traditions, your rituals, your blind following in the name of culture. Islam came here to challenge everything, to question everything, and yet we, in the name of Islam, are once again turning to our pagan culture, using that, but calling it Islam, and then reconditioning people's minds. What is one of the biggest sins in Islam? Forcing somebody to do something they don't want to do. Even if it is believing in God, yes. You cannot force somebody to believe in God. You cannot force somebody to pray. You cannot force somebody to cover their heads. You cannot force somebody to do anything that they don't want to do. And don't think you're going to get a reward for it. No, you're actually going to be punished very badly for it, because according to God, you just made that person against me even more. You just made that person go against me even more. To God, it is the greatest offense ever to do something to a person's mind that person, instead of getting closer to God, will now get away from God. And that is exactly, again, what the priests did to the Christian community. And so at the end there was this whole revolt, and then people decided, oh, we're out of the Christian kingdom, we're out of this. And this is why you ended up with a lot of atheists and agnostics, and you have a lot of those who are secular, and you have those who are Protestants, and then you have those who are Christians, but they're not those Christians, so and nominal Christians. Okay, it's because of nobody else but the priests who corrupted the Bible. They corrupted the gospel. Basically, they created the Bible, which is more or less very similar to a book of hadith, really, because it's a he said, she said, it's narrations, it's stories, it's third person, fourth person, second person, whatever. But I mean, it's basically a compilation of whatever they could remember of Jesus' sayings. So it's more or less a tradition, a book of traditions of Hazrat Isa, of Jesus, right? So point being, again, the priests and the monks, the Jewish monks, the Christian priests, they have a big hand in making the people get away from God, making the people get away from religion. You think they're going to be rewarded? No, they're not. They're going to be punished very deeply, because they led the people astray. They led the believing people astray, and then they led other people completely astray, as in that they literally just decided to forego their religion and faith altogether. So anything that you do to pressurize somebody that can lead that person, in fact, to go against God himself, Yeah, that is ultimately a sin and you will be punished for it. You're not going to get a medal for it, is what I'm saying. So, again, how can you use that religion to then recondition people's minds with your same old pagan traditions? For example, you bring the Islam card when you say, oh, in Islam, you cannot say this to your parents. You cannot say oof to your parents. You cannot say this to your elders. You cannot say that to you. And this is something that I was just literally a few minutes ago talking about with a friend of mine, and where we were saying the same thing, that look at the hypocrisy where, they play this card and it's not even the Islamic card, They think they're playing the Islam card, but it's not. Because remember, what they're doing is they're reliving the role of the devil, where the devil quotes parts of the scripture that suits him. That's exactly what these people are doing, because nowhere does Islam say that, oh, if that person is older than you, if they're doing something wrong or saying something wrong, you should agree with them and you should bow down to them and you should not say a word to them. And no, you have to call a spade a spade. Remember the hadith that I talked about in one of my previous podcasts, where, the girl who went against her mother, because her mother was trying to force her to add water to milk. They sold milk to the people. And the mother was like, oh, this is what we've always been doing. And the daughter's like, I don't care if you've been doing it. I'm not going to do it. And the mother literally, swore at her child and threatened her child and said that, you're no child of mine if you go against me. And, when Hazrat Umar found out about that, and he's like, this girl, she is truly the mother of the ummah. She is an ideal woman, that she actually went against her own mother rather than listen to her because she's her mother and then say, oh, okay, because my mother is saying this and I cannot say oof in front of my mother, so fine, I'll corrupt the milk and add water. No. You see? And Hazrat Umar had a lot to say to parents. Remember, I've done a whole podcast on that, in which Hazrat Umar had a whole lot to say to parents who were not good parents. He went so far as to say that if your child is rebelling against you because of something you did first, the onus is on you. All your child is doing is just justice. He's not wrong to rebel against you or to answer you back, because you are the one that broke the code first. So every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Right? That is what Hazrat Umar was all about. He was like, you do something, even if it's your own child, you do something, be prepared to get a reaction. There's nothing wrong with that. He's justified. So yeah, don't play that card with us, with those of us that know Islam. It's true that, yes, we're not supposed to, fight and smack and beat up and all, but it's also true that we're also not supposed to stand there and allow our parents to swear at us or to beat us or to, say whatever they want to us or to force us to do something that we don't want to do. No. We're not supposed to, Remember the what I said, that, God actually curses those parents. And you will find a similar quotation in the Bible as well, by the way, if you have any problems. So God actually curses those parents whose actions will lead their children to rebel against them. And how many parents do we know around us who do that? How many children can we see who have suffered at the hands of their parents? So again, yeah. Why would it be a punishment from God if a woman doesn't get married, or if a man doesn't get married, or if their marriage is delayed? Or first of all, where is it in Islam that marriage is a compulsory part of your life? Just explain that to me first. The amount of times when I've literally wanted to smack people in my own country, because despite all the so-called education that seems to be getting more and more common, despite the knowledge of Islam that seems to be getting more and more common, people still think that marriage is compulsory in Islam. And it's not. Marriage is compulsory in your pagan culture that you come from, but not in Islam. In Islam, marriage is a sunnah. And remember what a sunnah means. A sunnah means a preferred act to stop you from going astray. Something that can make your life easier and better. It's a better choice. And it's a better choice for whom? For those people who are courting each other, dating each other, those people who like each other, And so to stop them from going into from basically living in sin, just to stop them from living in sin, is like, you know what, the sunnah, the practice is get married. Right? That is what it's all about. That is the whole context behind this quotation that everybody loves to quote. Okay? And there is nowhere in the Quran where it's written, despite again the other quotation from the Quran that they like to say that and everybody's made with mates and everybody has a mate, everything has a mate. Yeah, please reference to context here. And there are a few muftis that have tried to fix this, because they're also getting sick and tired of how people misquote this ayah, this verse from the Quran. People are getting sick and tired of it. People who have acquired enough knowledge, people who are actually certified muftis, are fed up of this transgression here. God has repeatedly said, I have made one thing. If I've made one thing, then I've made the other to contradict it. If I've made two things in pairs, then I've made again an exception to the rule. This is what God keeps on and on talking about. And that is what he calls, that he signs. That is what is so unique. Remember, we are all individuals. We're all individuals. No, I'm sorry. Not every one of us are made in pairs. And there are some of us whose pairs are not even here in this world. We're not meant to be. We're not meant to have pairs. So why are we being conditioned that it is normal that our life must have a set phase or a set number of phases or steps that we have to go through? We have to do this, and then we have to do this, and then we have to get married, and then we have to have children. Where is it written? Seriously. We made it a part of our lives, fine, I get it. But again, where is it written that this is the only way we can live life? Where? If everybody is going to conform to this one way of living, how on earth are we going to have doctors and engineers? How on earth are we going to have scientists? How are we going to have architects? How are we going to have leaders? How are we going to have politicians? How are we going to have, the researchers? How are we going to have business people? How are we going to have teachers? How are we going to have students? How are we going to have apprentices? How are we going to have blacksmiths? How are we going to have goldsmiths? Seriously, you wouldn't have anybody if you conform to this particular way of life, where you can only do this, and then you do this, and then you get married, and then you have children. Like, seriously? Where is it written? You just show me where it is written that this is the only way to live life. We have come to this life because we all have our own individual paths that we have to go through, and then we have our own individual subjective tests that we have to take. Okay? We have to pass these tests in order to make it through our journey to reach the end point. When people start interfering with our paths, that is when things go haywire, and people do nothing but interfere in everybody's paths. That is the worst part about. In fact, let us just say that these are the obstacles. The biggest obstacle that you would ever face in your path in life are the people around you. They just have to interfere. They will never interfere in order to do things right by you, no, but they will always interfere in order to get things wrong and to do wrong by you, and to cause you harm, and to cause you loss, and to deviate you from your path. 99% of our suffering comes from interference from people around us. From people not minding their own business, from people always asking us intimate questions when they don't even know us. And there is always that question that even a maid will come and ask you. You're interviewing a maid, a servant, a help, for work, and instead she starts interviewing you, and the first question she'll ask is, oh, are you married? Like, what the frack does that have to do with anything? You're here to work, you do your work, and you get out. I am not asking you. I'm the one interviewing you, and I'm not asking you if you're married, and I'm not asking you if you have kids, and I'm not asking you who your husband is, and I'm not asking you what your husband does. I'm not asking you anything. I'm just asking you, this is the amount I'm going to pay you. This is the work. When do you want to start? But in our society, People just have to keep on asking you intimate questions when they don't even know you, which in Islam is, by the way, not allowed. You call yourselves Muslims and you don't even know the basic etiquette of Islam, where you are not allowed, you know. The secret to attaining perfection in religion is minding your own business, learning to ignore that which has nothing to do with you. This is the hadith of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Perfection in religion lies in ignoring that which does not concern you. In other words, mind your own business. Don't be such nosy Parkers. But here we are. We all have to be such nosy Parkers, Like, why? I have never asked my oldest friends about anything that's going on in their life, not unless they want to tell me about it. And if they want to tell me about it, I'm going to shut up and I'm going to listen to them. And I'm only going to open my mouth if they want me to. If they want me to give them advice, then only will I give them any advice, which I usually don't even then. And if they want me to talk, then only will I talk. Otherwise, I keep my mouth shut and I let them just talk their hearts out. Okay? And I don't tell them, oh, you need to do this. Oh, why don't you do this? Oh, you should do this. Oh, well, why do you? No. They are not here to listen to me. Okay? They're here to talk. My job as a friend is to listen to them talk. And this is why I don't like talking to people, because when I talk, then people are always so eager to tell me what to do, and they think that they're actually helping me. They're not. What really helps is shutting up and listening. And this is how I've always dealt with people my entire life, no matter who they are. Even if it is my own parents, I will never ask them what they're doing unless they want to tell me. I never ask them where they're going unless they want to tell me. I don't even ask them, whatever it is about their lives. And in fact, you know what? I'm at this point in my life where I actually even stop now people from telling me anything, because I'm not interested. I'm not interested at all, because it has nothing to do with me. It's not my concern. Yeah, I've gone to this point now in life. And now I know there are those busybodies who are going to say, oh, but you shouldn't do. Yes, you should. You should. There are times in life when you should learn to just stop nosing about and stop even listening to whatever it is another person wants to even talk to you about. Sometimes it is better not even to listen to somebody and to help them to keep quiet so that they don't talk too much. Because it's not always in everybody's interest to tell you everything, by the way. They may think that they can trust you, but you know what? Instead of them suddenly regretting even, the fact that they have talked too much in front of you, and one day they will, better to just tell them, you know what, just forget it. Let's talk about something else. So I really do not understand why people cannot have this basic etiquette in them, where they cannot mind their own business, where they have to ask intimate questions. And again, why have we still continued to recondition boys and girls that the ultimate goal in life is to get married? It's not. Again, we were brought down to this world to prepare. It's a journey. It's a very long, very tedious journey, and we've got lots of things to do, and we need to get our priorities right. And believe me, marriage is not one of them. Okay? What is important is what we need to do with our lives, first of all. Okay? What we plan to live for. Okay? What are we supposed to be doing when we achieve a certain goal? What our next step is supposed to be as per our own individual path. Okay? And then taking others into consideration, how we can take everybody along with us so that nobody suffers and everybody gains. That is the ultimate test, by the way, which majority of people are failing, and very gloriously so. And then, we are here also to observe, explore, discover, invent, and understand the signs of God. Okay? Tell me, where does marriage and having children come into that? You want to get married again. Listen, saw bismillah. Go ahead, get married. You want to have kids? Go ahead. But if you're getting married just for the sake of it, or just to prove to the world that there's nothing wrong with you, and that's what parents are basically doing with their children, just to prove to the society that, oh, there's nothing wrong with my girl or my boy, my boy isn't gay and my girl has nothing wrong with her. So, okay, let's just get them married. And later on, even if their marriage breaks, it doesn't matter, because we have proved to the world that there was nothing wrong with them. They could get married. And kudos if they have kids too. It doesn't matter if later on the families break. It doesn't matter if they get a divorce. Okay, we have made our point. Yeah. Don't you dare try to tell me I'm wrong, because that's exactly what people are doing. That's, again, actions speak louder than words. Your actions, this is what they're speaking. This, in fact, they're shouting it out, from the roofs. They're screaming it. Your actions are literally screaming that you have used your children to make a point, and you do not care that they have to suffer the consequences of it. In Islam, these marriages are not even valid. You do realize that. In Islam, these marriages are not valid. So these marriages are not accepted as marriages where Islam is concerned. So you've actually just committed a huge crime, and you've put your children through a sort of an unregistered adultery, adulterous relationship, basically. Why? Because they didn't even want to get married in the first place. Or you convinced them or forced them to get married. Either way, this is now actually adultery. It's not even marriage. And the sin is on you, not them, by the way. They're not going to be punished for it. You are. You, the parents, are. You are not allowed to dictate the lives of your children. You have responsibilities towards them, and this isn't it. This isn't one of those responsibilities. Your responsibilities are to be able to make them ready, that they can follow their path. You are supposed to help them stand on their 2 feet so that they can now independently follow their path. That is your responsibility. I've said this so many times, I'm practically sick and tired of saying it, really. But that's where we stand, Stop listening to scholars, this engineer this and this doctor that, and this so-called alam this and alam that, and peer this and peer that, because the conditions in Islam of learning is pick up the Quran and read, and then pick up the ahadith and read, okay, and then pick up all the old precedents, of the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and then their immediate companions or followers, and then their immediate companions and followers. These are all your precedents. They have given you everything completely. If you still have a problem and you still cannot understand something, then go to a certified mufti. And if you still cannot find an answer, then go get a second opinion. It's just like how we deal with doctors. It's not like you will agree with everything a doctor says, no matter how good he is. He may be the best doctor in the world, but you will still go for a second opinion. So why wouldn't you go for a second opinion when it's with muftis? Why do you stick with one and believe everything? You think muftis cannot make mistakes? Hell, I have literally caught some of the biggest, grandest muftis make some basic mistakes, and I do not agree with them. So why do I not agree with them? Because I've also read the Quran, I've also read the Hadith, I've also read the precedents. And this is why we have to go to the main source first. We must never go to a mufti or a grand mufti or an alam or a peer fakir first. We must always hit the books. We must do our own research. We must read the Quran, which is the source of all sources. And then we must read the Hadith, which explains the Quran. And then again, we go to the precedents. These are our sources. When we have 4 stable sources, why do we keep running to mufti? This is shortcut. This is laziness. This is spoon feeding. And this is shirk. When the Prophet himself says it is shirk, who are you to deny it? Islam came here to challenge cultures. It came here to challenge brainwashing. Because that is what our cultures have been doing. In the name of culture, we were brainwashed, we were reconditioned. And yet, it's very sad to see that even now we are ruining lives by giving precedence to our culture over Islam, and we have the gall to put Islam's name and play the Islam card where it doesn't even exist, and we force people to live lifestyles that we want them to. And then we end up putting people in a state of misery when they don't achieve that. People go into depression because of marriages and divorces. People go into depression because they want children and they can't have children. Why? Why? Again, parents are to blame. Parents and society, but especially parents, are to blame, because parents have always been putting it in the minds of the children right from the start that the ultimate goal in life is to get married and have children. Again, where the frack is that written? You have ruined generations. You have ruined lives with this lie. You have ruined people's individual confidence. You've ruined people's self-respect. You've ruined people's hereafter. You've gone so far as to ruin people's akhirat. You've ruined their hereafter by putting them in this state. And obviously you're going to be held accountable for it. Don't think you're not going to be held accountable. Don't think, oh, we were parents and we were doing our... No. There is no excuse, no justification for ruining somebody's life. I'm sorry. Pushing them to do something because you've put it in their mind that this is the only way to live life. It's not. Marriage and children are not the only way to... Please stop brainwashing your children. Instead, let them have goals. Let them have more to live for in life other than marriage, because believe me, the amount of girls and boys whose lives and futures have been ruined in the name of marriage. And at the end, they're left with nothing. At the end, they don't have the marriage, they don't have their children, or they have broken marriages, or they have a completely broken lives, and then they have no future and they have no other options left in life that they can go through to get out of it. You've closed all the doors and the windows just for that one stupid animal act of getting married. It's an animal act. It's an animal act where you're telling that person that the only thing in life is getting married and having children. You know what a true Ashraful Makhluqat is supposed to be doing? What a true perfection of humankind is supposed to be doing? He's supposed to be proving with his every breath in life the signs of God. He's supposed to be passing his tests. He's supposed to be moving ahead in life and he's supposed to be looking at all the various choices that life has to offer. He's supposed to be exploring the world that God has created. He's supposed to be trying to understand his purpose in life. Not prove to people that he can make children, and not prove to people that there's nothing wrong with him, so he needs to get married. Stop ruining lives, please. Stop brainwashing and reconditioning girls, especially, and boys about marriage. There is so much more to life. Marriage is just one part. It's just one part of life. It's not your whole life. And it's definitely not a prerequisite to living. Okay? This is me signing out. Khuda Hafiz.